how do we make the important decisions in our life to take a step forward and to reach the impact that we want to achieve? Decision making is kind of a soft topic. We have to understand a little bit about the psychology of the human mind, how we make decisions, how they impact our lives, how can we make more successful decisions, and how can we make decisions that impact a group of people that are around us, whether they're our family, our community, or even our company. The difference, in my opinion, between short, medium, and long-term decisions is that short-term decisions are based on immediate actions. Medium-term decisions are based on networking, reaching out, starting to figure out and discover the world around you and explore what options you have available. And long-term decisions are about investing in a new structure, investing in a new plan, investing in a new way of doing things, investing in a new setup for your life and your goals. Obviously, investing takes a lot of time to come to fruition, and that's why it's long-term. So you might plan to accomplish something in a year or two, but you might start working on it today. So now, let's go back to human psychology. The way humans are programmed, and this is an interesting thing that you can look up in the book Freakonomics, we give much greater weight to negative impact short-term decisions than we do for long-term negative impact. Let's go back to smoking. Smoking might kill you in 30 years. You might get lung cancer. It might affect your life. However, since that happens 30 years in the future, you might consider that not something that you want to worry about. And so you may think, oh, I'll smoke today. I'll figure this out tomorrow. Whereas if I told you if you smoked right now, you're going to die tomorrow, you would think about smoking in a completely different light. So things that have a eminent negative impact, you think about a lot, and things that have a deferred negative impact, you worry about later. Now, understanding that, it can create a situation where you don't invest in your future. It can create a situation where you make a series of short-term decisions, one after the next, always deferring the negative impact to later, and then you end up in a situation where you are stuck. A good example of this is debt, credit card debt. I'll buy this today on credit card. I'll pay it off with another credit card. I'll push it off for another month. I'll pay one credit card with another credit card. I'll get a loan to pay the first credit card that I paid on the second credit card. And you keep deferring when the debt is due until later. You get it to a point in the future and you realize the long-term impact of those short-term decisions. And so what you've been deferring and kind of not giving weight to today has become a big problem in the future. I recently watched a video about the debt crisis in Lebanon, and I feel for the people of Lebanon, but what happened is their government kept deferring debt and signing on new debt to pay off old debt and kept deferring the date of paying back that debt. And where they are today and the crisis that they're in today is a result of not thinking about the long-term effects of those short-term decisions. So understanding that this is how your mind works, what you can do is to think about those impacts and to bring them back today. If what was going to happen in 10 years was going to happen tomorrow, would I make the same decision or not? Another good book on this is the book The Dip by Seth Godin. Seth Godin talks about different career paths and how quitting one career path might be the best thing that you can do, because quitting something that isn't working or isn't going to work for you long term is the best way to release yourself of those commitments, to release your time and your energy, to refocus it on what is potentially a growing career path where you have a competitive advantage, where you can stand out, and where you can actually deliver great value to society and capture a lot of that value as well, live a good life. And so the dip talks about, beginner's luck, the cul-de-sac, different types of performance curves, and what it takes to go through the dip, to power through and to get to the other side of being a high performance individual that achieves great things in life. Weighted decisions are a great way to make decisions, but I don't think pros and cons are the right way to weigh them, because each of us is coded differently. We each have our own way of thinking about problems. We each have our own value systems, and based on those value systems, each of us, when presented with the same challenge, will make a different decision based on our personality. So I'll give you an example. I want to go into a relationship with an investor. The investor wants me to cheat my customers because we can make more money. If I believe that if I cheat my customers, karma will come back and bite me, that decision contradicts with my belief system. And so I cannot make a decision that contradicts with my belief system. And so here it's not about pros and cons, because the con here contradicts my value structure. And by doing so, it is off the table. That decision becomes off the table. And so there's only one real choice there, which is the choice that doesn't contradict with my value structure. I've come up with this decision-making framework, a good way to make complex decisions, like decisions that come up when you're starting a company, when you're working in an organization, when you're working in a big team. You need a good framework to help you make decisions. You come to make a decision, you say, okay, forget about all the implications, forget about all the strings that are attached, forget about all prior commitments, forget about where we're positioned in this decision, forget about what situation I'm in today. What is the right thing to do based on my moral compass, based on what I believe is right and wrong in the world? If right is white and wrong is black, and there is no gray, and there's a clear cut between what you should do and should not do, what is the right decision in this situation, irrespective of its implications? So that's the first question. What should we do? And then you think about the consequences. If we do that, what might happen? And those consequences might be grave consequences. They might not be what you like. They may not be results that you're happy about, but you know that's the right thing to do. So if I did what was the right thing to do and the consequences were negative, now let me think about second order. How do I mitigate those consequences? Because I still want to do the right thing. Nobody wants to make a decision where they're doing something that they believe is the wrong thing to do. This is called adverse impact theory. You think about the adverse impacts that come from that decision. Then you think about, is there any way to manage this decision or modify it slightly differently, where I could approach it in a different way, where I could still do the right thing, but I could mitigate those adverse impacts. You make a decision, there are other parties that are involved. They come back and they negotiate with you. Like, okay, you decided to do X. We don't like that. Here are all the adverse impacts that come from that. We suggest that you do Y. And then you have to think about, what am I willing to compromise? And what is my hard line where I'm not willing to negotiate or compromise? And this is very important. A lot of decisions that are complex decisions include multiple parties. And so you might know what you want to do, but you're going to feel a lot of pressure from other parties that tell you that's not the right decision for all of us. And if you want the greatest benefit, here's where you need to compromise. And if you don't know where your limits are, you're not going to be able to manage that properly. You might make a decision that you're going to regret in the future because you've been pushed beyond your boundaries. And you're not going to even be able to communicate, here's where I can't compromise because these are my boundaries. And so you're not going to be able to settle with them or compromise in a way that's meaningful to both parties. And it's going to be a win-lose situation. So that's the third question. What am I not willing to accept? What am I not willing to compromise on? What am I not willing to negotiate? If I had to pick one thing, which is sacred, what is that? And what else other than that am I willing to let go, negotiate, compromise on? The last part of that framework is, where do we go from here? A good decision doesn't happen in vacuum. A good decision is connected to a vision, which is a future vision. If I make this decision today, it's because I will want to achieve something in the future. And so a lot of decisions, for example, if you're doing some kind of work and you're not happy with that work, quitting that work is not the solution to your problem. You should quit that work to rededicate yourself to what comes next. So without that vision of what happens after this decision, without that next step, you get into being lost. And a lot of people do this. They make a very big decision. I don't want to be with this person. I don't want to work in this company. I don't want to partner with this person. I don't want to accept this investment. And so they make the short-term decision, but they don't have a long-term vision of where they want to go. And then they spend some time where they are kind of lost in limbo, in this gap between where they've made the negative decision, I don't want to do that, and have not decided on the positive situation of, here's where I want to go next. And so a good decision includes both of those. Here's what I'm going to accept, or here's what I've decided today, but I've decided that with the objective of getting here tomorrow. And that's vision. So those are the four aspects: morality, consequences, boundaries, and vision. A good decision includes all four. The best decisions in life are not single-dimensional. You have to understand that you as a human being have multiple dimensions. You have a family dimension, you have a community dimension, you have a self dimension that includes your mindset, your self-worth, your mentality, your health, your body, your soul, your fitness. You have a career that you need to work on. You have relationships. You have to kind of think about all that in aggregate. So the best decisions in life minimize the compromises between the different aspects of your life. And why do I say that? Because it's really well known, the quote that says, choose your sacrifice, right? We could all be athletes if we chose to sacrifice a lot of other things that we do. We could all be writers if we sacrificed our career to sit there and write. We could all be designers if we sacrificed everything else in the pursuit of design. We could all be entrepreneurs if we sacrificed everything else in the pursuit of business. We could all be great family men if we chose that family was the number one thing and we will sacrifice work and career and everything else just to take care of our family. And so the highest form of art here is to not sacrifice. But that's impossible because time is limited. You will always have to make some consideration, some sacrifice, but make sure that you still end up with a balanced life. Everything that a normal life includes. Life is not fun without friends. Life is not fun without family. Life is not fun without money. Life is not fun without health. So don't sacrifice one of those in order to build another dimension and be completely skewed. You have to be somewhat multidimensional. One of the most interesting things I'm seeing these days is how to make decisions as a collective, as a team, as a group, as a community. And here, I think there's another aspect you want to think about. When we're making decisions as a team, it's really good to have buy-in from different team members. It's really good to build a combined vision of what do we want to achieve together and how do we all contribute to that. It's really good to avoid groupthink, which is me telling you yes because I think you want me to say yes, but rather saying like, I would like to agree with you, but here's my consideration, here's my value system, here are my boundaries, here's why I don't think this is a good decision. Maybe we can modify it together to get to something that we can all agree on, that doesn't compromise my beliefs, that doesn't make you sacrifice a lot of what you value, right? And we can come to a good collective decision. This kind of debate is why democracy is really hard. It's why, public figures working in politics struggle a lot. There are a lot of different interests. There are special interest groups. There are constituents. And if you don't get them all on the same table and figure out collectively where is the way we want to go, what is the vision that we want to build together, and how do we all contribute to it, you get into sometimes a deadlock. And you can't make a good community decision. Some of the nice tools that are coming up now, like blockchain and like proof of stake, where people who have more stake are able to participate more into that decision in a way that is weighted towards the stakeholders of that decision, or might be technology solutions to these. However, the challenge still remains. If I want to run a neighborhood, does every neighbor get the same vote? Or do the ones with the bigger houses get more vote? Or do the ones that have lived longer there get a bigger vote? Or do the ones that are raising their kids in that neighborhood now, really young kids, so they're going to be there longer, and they have more to lose because their kids are going to grow up there, have more votes? How do we distribute votes among people so that proof of stake, how do we distribute votes among stakeholders to make the best decisions for everybody? And how can we get all stakeholders on the same table to come and discuss and agree and make a good collective decision? Before we jump off, we need to be very mindful of regret. What I would push forward is that think through your decisions so that you don't regret them later. Time will tell if you made the right decision, but you should never feel bad about making a decision, because the worst thing you can do is to let life run you by without making decisions, and then regretting that you are on a path that you have not chosen. Don't let life be that current that takes you where it wants to take you. Take a decision, even if it's the wrong decision, because being empowered and having the agency to take decisions is always going to be the best approach. Even if you make a mistake, do not regret that, because you can always make another decision.